At this moment of time, we're in a golden age of remakes and reboots. We're seeing characters like Jill Valentine, Lara Croft, Doomguy, Spyro, and even Crash Bandicoot get a fresh touch up and a sprinkle of nostalgia all over them to bring them back to life. But it's got me thinking about all those years that we saw these games and characters mistreated. So please join me when I talk about iconic characters that have just been thrown aside and not respected at all. Doom Eternal, Resident Evil 2 and 3, the recent Tomb Raider trilogy. All these games have proven that these characters are still able to be as iconic, but also most importantly, well, still important to the industry as much as they were back then. These characters all represent a very important time and change in the gaming industry, but to see their full potential just sit there and gather dust is very upsetting for many gamers, and I can even contest to that with the likes of Resident Evil. Knowing that Doom 2016 could have been something totally different puts a weird odd taste in my mouth. When you look at the original gameplay, it tried to be more of a traditional FPS where you're part of a resistance taking on the demons on Earth, and for hell that didn't feel like Doom to me. But I adore the fact that they knew this and they had to reshape Doom 2016 as quick as possible to redefine the FPS genre to make it feel just like it did in the original. And they've somehow revived Doomguy as a fresh gaming icon. People love to talk about him and actually be engaged with him. The fact his character development doesn't go anything past being completely angry seems to speak to a lot of people in comedic ways, but also in a way to see that he's just a badass, simple to the point, iconic gaming character. And the same could be said with Resident Evil 2. The fact that fans were asking for the longest time to just get a possible Resident Evil 2 remake makes you wonder what it could have been like if they actually remade Resident Evil 2 back in the early 2000s along with the original remake. Capcom has handled the franchise with fantastic resolve though. They've looked back at the original and developed it in a way that could translate into modern gaming while still providing that original tense gameplay that the originals also provided. And now we're finally getting to see a Resident Evil 3 remake, also in the same path as Resident Evil 2. And this is going to involve Jill, which for me is quite a big deal because Jill hasn't been treated correctly at all. The last time we actually saw her get treated correctly was possibly in Resident Evil Remake. Jill is 100% a character who spearheaded the series along with Chris Redfield, so the idea that she doesn't get treated correctly does really piss me off. So the fact that we're finally getting to see her be a badass all over again, once again in a remake though not an original story, is still exciting to me, and hopefully we'll get to see more Jill Valentine in the future in actual mainline series of the game. And you can't forget about Agent 47 and the Hitman series. IO Interactive has mostly stuck to their guns when it comes to the main games here, but they did try something a little bit different with Hitman Absolution, which many people will tell you that they don't really agree with or they don't like at all. It's a fun action game, but it isn't a great Hitman game, but it is still worth your time checking out. But IO Interactive took it back to basics with Hitman 2016. That was a big year for reboots. They went back and looked at the original formula but updated it in every single way, with levels to remember, patterns to learn, and timing every single move being very important. But it's updated in every single way, which reminded us why we love this bald-headed assassin so much. As the composer of Doom, Mick Gordon, once said, when it comes to the legacy of Doom, it's important to treat that with the utmost respect. And I feel like that's the mindset that every single one of these companies went into when rebooting and bringing these franchises back to life. It's important to remember the legacy, and it's important to remember why people loved the original games. To overcomplicate things sometimes makes people forget about why these characters were so great in the first place. To the fact that they looked at the legacy and went straight back to basics but gave it a new life and a new energy tells people exactly what they need to know. That there's nothing wrong with a classic and you don't need to fix what isn't broken. So I just want to say a big massive thank you to id Software, Bethesda, Square Enix, Crystal Dynamics, and of course Capcom. Thank you all for looking at your legacy and building on it. Thank you all for introducing these characters to a new generation, and thank you all for breathing a new breath of life into something I loved so dearly. You can all go now. Thank you very much. Ubisoft, what are you doing here? You was talking about me, dude. I didn't say your name, Ubisoft. You just sit right fucking there, okay? Ubisoft has created a legacy with fantastic characters and gameplays that a generation and generations before it and generations after it will always remember. Rayman's iconic platforming with his floaty hands, the Prince of Persia series lore and gameplay and time travelling mechanics, the entirety of what Assassin's Creed is, everything that they put their little grubby fingers in almost becomes iconic. Ubisoft changed the landscape of gaming for the good but also for the bad. Their recent endeavours has been so dedicated to having a 10-year long play service that they seem to mostly focus on multiplayers like Division or For Honor or even Rainbow Six. There's nothing wrong with it and that's fine. If you love these games then that's totally fine. But every now and then they do like to throw out a few single player games like the Assassin's Creed series, Watch Dogs and even Far Cry. But there seems to be one character that seems to be treated so badly with Ubisoft that they can't even just let him go. They seem to dangle him in front of people to persuade people to buy DLC. And I'm talking about Sam Fisher. Fisher is a stealth icon. I can argue that he's just as important as Snake or Agent 47 or even Garrett from Thief. He was cocky, full with backstory, had so much lore around him, he had such a great character and people saw this character develop over a span of 11 years. People got generally attached to Sam Fisher because he was so likeable. We saw Sam go from a national hero to a rage-filled machine after the death of his daughter to a stern leader who reflects on what he learns and who he trusts. He grew and changed in his ways and it felt very natural to a man that has experienced all that he had experienced. And this sounds very familiar to Ubisoft and how they handle their characters. Ezio, though not the main character of the Assassin's Creed series, might as well be the face of the franchise. We literally saw his birth to seeing him be a young naive man who loses everything to becoming a master assassin to become a man who wants to go on his own personal pilgrims. Ezio's story spanned across my literal high school years. He grew up and died as I grew up and got through education. I was learning about myself at the same time learning a lot about Ezio Auditore. His story is both engaging and incredible and his strong character and growth means the world to so many fans, and being able to see every moment of it and then most importantly being able to say goodbye to him felt so good. To have a resolve at the end of this journey felt amazing for so many fans and felt like they could move on. Unfortunately, he moved on to Connor, which, oh god. And that's where Sam Fisher comes in. He feels like he's a used up mascot for Ubisoft's great past, being thrown into mobile games and DLCs, and even having a full voice return from Michael Ironside to do his original voice. The last Splinter Cell game we got was Splinter Cell Blacklist in 2013, and this game in my opinion is the second best in the series, of course the first being Chaos Theory, which holds up to date. Play it. And if you ask me, Blacklist perfectly shows everything I love about the series. The acrobatics, the movement choices, the gadgets, and of course the stealth. Ironside didn't return for Sam in this one and personally had to handle some health issues, which I don't mind as long as the new voice continued to feel like Sam, right? No, well, Ironside left, this new Sam didn't feel like Sam at all. I'm going to put it down to character growth and saying that he's more stern after the events of Splinter Cell Conviction, but there was none of that character or energy there that Michael Ironside provided for Sam in the past. So with that being said, it felt like Sam Fisher wasn't ever present in Splinter Cell Blacklist at all, even though people were constantly calling you Sam, which is a shame because the game itself is actually fantastic and totally worth a look if you're a stealth fan. But if you ask me, Ubisoft need to take a step back from this open world formula just for a minute. Take a look at the recent Hitman games and have big sandbox set pieces that could be handled so well in a well-crafted story-driven game like Splinter Cell. Focus on character growth and character development and how players can overcome the challenges that the games provide. Why not breathe life back into stealth games all over again? Stealth games seem to be missing this day and age. Yes, we've got Hitman, but that seems to be about it. Metal Gear Solid isn't even providing the same sort of levels of stealth that it once did in the past. And I think that tells me that it's about time we start getting some tight spandex and glow-in-the-dark goggles back into the gaming industry. And the series holds as strong as a legacy to stealth games as Tomb Raider does to the action-adventure genre. And seeing Sam Fisher just thrown into new Ghost Recon games as DLCs and a guest starring character often makes me think there may be hope that they are thinking about making a new Splinter Cell game. It also tells me that they have a complete disregard and lack of respect for Sam Fisher as a character as a whole, to think that he isn't worthy of just one last mission and actually use the use of his age and history behind him to tell a great story that could even put Ezio's to shame. Maybe it could even be a chance for us to officially say goodbye to our version of Sam Fisher, and even have Michael Ironside return just for one last time so he could say goodbye to the character as well, because of course it's understandable that it's time to move on and move on to the next generation, and that's totally fine. But But if you're not going to do anything with Sam Fisher, stop dangling in front of people like some sort of piece of meat, and at least respect what he stands for and what he has done for the gaming industry. Give us one last chance, give us one last mission, and just let us say goodbye to old Sam Fisher. Hello everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had to get it off my chest after they just announced the new DLC for Ghost Recon, which of course features Sam Fisher, and it just sort of kind of annoyed me and made me realise that there seems to be a big disregard and lack of respect for characters like him. Obviously we're seeing now that reboots and remakes are coming out of the woodworks, so hopefully this pushes Ubisoft to do something like that, or maybe at least give us something of a Splinter Cell game, because I would appreciate it. And I would like to hear what your favourite Splinter Cell game is down below, and if you've never played the series, why not? Has it never interested you, or have you just been more of a Metal Gear Solid sort of guy? That doesn't bother me at all, and that's totally fine, that's your opinion. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course I'll see you all at the next checkpoint. Bye bye.